We move on to the AFC South, all division mega squad here. All of the best players in the AFC South onto one team. 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense. Who makes the cut? Who does not? Coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to all of the everydayers out there. We appreciate you. If you are not yet an everydayer, that's okay. You can jump in with us every single day here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So just subscribe up there. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of the NFL. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Okay, Matt, we are on to our third division here in our all-division series. AFC East, AFC North episodes are done. You can go back and find those. At the end, we'll try to rank these divisions of best teams to worst teams as we look at 11 starters and 11 starters on offense and 11 starters on defense. And this might be one of the most interesting divisions in the AFC South, Matt, because I don't know if it's the strongest division. And when it's not that strong, I think that's where we get to have a little fun and maybe build a squad a little different with our starting 11 and, rather than 3 receivers, maybe we go an extra running back. So I think we're going to have that conversation today with the AFC South.
Yeah, you're being kind saying, I'm not sure it's the strongest division. That was nice words of you of phrasing things. But there are 3 rookie quarterbacks in this division, including Levis, that could see serious playing time, that have some pedigree. Maybe this is rock bottom and it's all gravy from here. There's some rookies in this division I think that could be in consideration for this list. So maybe the best is yet to come. Again, that's a nice way of putting it, but I think this division is going to be softer than most. I'm certain of it.
It's certainly a division that's getting better, at least with 3 out of 4 of the teams. And the fourth team being the Tennessee Titans, where I'm not exactly sure where they're at in their, life cycle right now. But quarterback is where we start. And there's just not a conversation to be had here with quarterback. And luckily they do have one quarterback who, again, is on the come up. And Trevor Lawrence could be the next superstar quarterback in the NFL. He hasn't hit that yet, but you love what you see from him in year 2 last year. And he looks like he's on that path. Trevor Lawrence is absolutely, without question, the quarterback for the AFC South versus Ryan Tannehill, who's had a nice career to this point, but probably in his last year with the Titans. Anthony Richardson, rookie, CJ Stroud, rookie for the Colts and the Texans, respectively. So they're definitely not going to be there. And it's hard to project that they would ever get to even where Trevor Lawrence looks like he's going to be here going into year 3.
Yeah, this is a slam dunk. We should probably just move on. For the purpose of our super teams, though, you hope Lawrence even takes one more step, and he's at that Burrow level. I'm not going to even put Mahomes, but the other quarterbacks we've mentioned so far are Josh Allen and Burrow. Can Lawrence get to that level now, as opposed to just being a top 10 type of guy?
So Trevor Lawrence is our quarterback for the All-AFC South team. Running back is one of the stronger positions in this division, and probably the strongest position in this division. And you look at the 4 starters for those teams in the South. You have Derrick Henry in Tennessee. You have Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. You have Dameon Pierce, who had a really good rookie season for the Texans last year. Travis Etienne, who came into his own last year for the Jaguars in year 2 after being a first-round pick in the 2021 draft. So a lot of pedigree, a lot of talent there. And I think this is a big conversation on who we're going to take here to be our RB1. And are we only going to take one running back in this division when it's all said and done?
I vote for Taylor. I think it's obviously a 2-horse race between Taylor and Henry, who I think is really a Hall of Fame type of guy. I think along with Nick Chubb, these are 2 of the best 3 ball carriers, traditional 1985 running backs out there. I think Taylor has a little more untapped potential as a receiver. I think Henry has gotten more on his own last year than Taylor did, but the youth makes me lean towards Taylor.
He's 4 years younger. We've seen actually some injuries with both of those backs, which is what happens with running backs in the NFL. And I'm definitely not going to fight you on that. I did have the tiebreaker with age being Jonathan Taylor and just, you know, the high level season we saw in 2021 from Jonathan Taylor, even though we've seen some really high level seasons from Derrick Henry as well. But Jonathan Taylor, I think, is running back one. But I'm going to put a pin in, to be honest with you, Matt, I might put a pin in all four of these running back or all the other three running backs that are the starters in this division, because I think there's an argument to be made that we go running back heavy with this offense when we look at the rest of the skill guys.
Possibly. And I'll be honest, when I jotted down my 11 and honorable mentions, I didn't even consider going with two running backs. But Henry and Taylor are certainly two of the best 11. I mean, I don't know how we'll fight that once we get through it. We'll come back to it at the end of offense, I imagine. I wish Travis Etienne was a more dynamic receiver. He's a little disappointing to me as a receiver.
Yeah, and that's how it was really strange when he was drafted. I usually don't like the first round running back picks, but they build him as sort of like Jahmyr Gibbs is being billed this year. It's like, oh, he might just be split out and be as much receiver as he is running back, right? And that's not really what happened with him in his first couple. He got hurt his first year, and then last year he was just the main running back, and they traded his backup. So, you know, he's just the number one running back, and that's it. And we never saw that receiving threat from him to the level that it was billed when he was drafted. And we never saw it in college either, which is why it was a little strange when they said that about him. It's like, well, that hasn't been his game. Right. And I could see that becoming his game because of his athleticism. He would be dynamic as a receiving weapon, but that's just not how it's come about the first couple of years of his career. So it's hard to say, oh, well, let's just put him at wide receiver. I don't think we can do that.
No, he's much more of a dump off guy than route runner at this point. And I don't know if he always will be or what, but he has not lived up to the Percy Harvin comparisons. You know, he's not 50-50 at all.
So the wide receiver conversation is going to take a little bit. Let's go to tight end first, Matt, and get that position figured out in the AFC South. Pulling up my list of tight ends here. So going through the tight ends in this division, a new addition in Dalton Schultz to the Houston Texans, which I thought was a fantastic signing by Houston. You've got second-year guy Jelani Woods in Indianapolis to go along with Mo Alley Cox. And rookie Will Mallory there. They're building a nice little stable of tight ends, but I'm excited for year two of Jelani Woods. He has a ton of talent and showed some glimpses of it last year. You have Chick Okonkwo, who was a revelation as a rookie last year for the Tennessee Titans. I loved watching him play, and now it's his job. But Evan Ingram blew up last year, and the Jacksonville Jaguars tight end, I believe, is going to have to be our tight end. But I'll listen to arguments for Schultz or Woods or Okonkwo or, I don't know, Brenton Strange, the rookie backup for Evan Ingram, if you want to throw some other names out there.
No, it has to be Ingram. I mean, he's hitting the prime of his career. I always reference dynasty with these guys. I think Woods is a great guy to get on now in terms of dynasty while you still can, because I think he could be a breakout guy. I was ahead of the curve on Chig with that as well. Very happy to own a lot of his shares. But they strive to be where Ingram is now. You know, Ingram's just ahead of those guys right now.
Moving along to the offensive line. Let's get tackles done here, and then we'll come back, finish the rest of the offensive line, and then we'll look at receivers and, of course, all of our 11 defenders for the All-AFC South team. Who do you like as your tackles here in the South, man?
I worry that this is going to be a bigger conversation, so I know we have to go to break. So the slam dunk is Tunsil at left tackle. You know, I mean, I think we just plug him in, chisel that in stone. Right tackle, to me, could be his counterpart. Howard's had a decent career and seems to be ascending. I want Skoronski to be on this line somewhere, and the guard plays okay, and the right tackle play isn't, but I would rather Skoronski play guard. You know, I mean, like, there's some puzzle pieces here.
Okay, that's a great place to pause then. I'm going to run through the tackles, and then we'll ruminate on it as we go to break here. Laremy Tunsil clearly is in pin, and I already had him on our list as the left tackle for this team. So who plays right tackle? Is it Titus Howard, the right tackle for the Houston Texans? You got Bernard Ryman, had an up-and-down rookie season. You've got rookie Blake Freeland, who looks like he's been starting in OTAs at right tackle for the Indianapolis Colts. You got Braden Smith, who's injured there as well for the Colts, and there might be some movement around there, and who knows, maybe Freeland even takes the left side job. But a lot up in the air with the Colts offensive line at tackle. Cam Robinson and Walker Little in Jacksonville. Anton Harrison, the first-round pick there in the mix as well. Andre Dillard and Nicholas Petit-Frere with some other young players as well for the Tennessee Titans at tackle. And then you mentioned Skoronski, which is interesting. So I think we're going to have to put this together kind of all at once instead of position by position for the All-AFC South offensive line next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Make a fast break right now to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs. They might not be NBA playoffs going for very much longer. So get in on that action, because right now new customers can get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sports book. FanDuel is safe and secure. I love how easy the app is to use. You can build your own parlays, build your own bets, and there are a ton of bets to get involved with. Great promotions every single day. You get paid instantly at FanDuel. And not only NBA playoffs, there's NHL playoffs, there's Major League Baseball every single day all summer long. You can also always find an MLB baseball game to bet on, except for the day after and before the All-Star break. The NFL futures that are on there, tons of NFL. You bet on just about every single week lines for the NFL season already at FanDuel. Who will be the next Super Bowl champion? The rookies of the year, rushing leaders, passing leaders, tons of ways to bet on the NFL during the offseason at FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So we went through the names already at offensive tackle for the AFC South. Let's look at the interior a little bit and see how we want to build this thing. And your question is valid. Peter Skoronski, who was, probably the most plug and play offensive lineman in this 2023 NFL draft class. I would look at him as a guard. I think that's where the Titans are looking at him at left. But I will not argue that maybe there's stronger guards than tackles, and we might have to push somebody out to tackle. Peter Skoronski played tackle in college. So could he play right tackle for this squad? Well, let's go through the guards and see if we like more guards than we like tackles. So if we put Skoronski at tackle, and that's
what I'm leading to, but I don't love it.
Okay. So his counterpart there, Daniel Brunskill, signed in free agency for the Titans, is probably going to play right guard for the Titans. Some things to be figured out still. I think they got Dylan Radins and some other players there in Tennessee. You got Brandon Sheriff and Ben Barch, and I think those will be the starting guards in Jacksonville. You've got Will Freeze, you've got Quentin Nelson, who's obviously going to be one of our guards here.
Yeah, we can plug him in.
Is he that slam dunk? It's Quentin Nelson with one of the guard spots, right?
Yeah, and 1 year ago we wouldn't even taken a pulse, and these things were disastrous for the Colts offense. I have faith he'll be a top 5 guard again after a somewhat down season. He's an obvious one to me. So that's
then in Houston you have
filled.
Right. So then in Houston we have Kenyon Green, the first rounder from last year, and Shaq Mason, who came over from Tampa Bay, who's a nice player at right guard. So Nelson plus, do we take 2 of these guards, move Skoronski to right tackle? Do we keep Skoronski as a guard, or do you like a couple other guards?
The whole thing's not perfect. I mean, Tunsil and Nelson, boom. We got 2/5 of a solid offensive line that could be, is about as good as there is going for 2/5 of it. The other 3/5 of it, I don't like whatsoever. We could talk centers. I mean, I think that's probably going to be Kelly from Indianapolis, but he's coming down off a bad year as well, as are all the Colts offensive players. I kind of lean towards Schreff over Mason as my second guard, and Skoronski over moving Cam Robinson or Howard at right tackle. But I'll definitely concede Skoronski is better suited for guard. I mean, I'm open to ideas, but I'm trying to get the best 5 on the field.
I think the best 5 would end up being Skoronski, and we're plugging a rookie in there.
Yeah,
I think I would like, because you're moving him anyway from left tackle where he played in college. I'd go guard. I would go Kelly at center.
Yeah.
And at tackle.
So you would put Skoronski at guard opposite Nelson, you think?
I think I would. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the question there would be,
Braden Smith, move Cam Robinson from left to right, or Howard. I think Howard's ascending quietly. I don't love it, though. I mean, I think we're drafting a right tackle in the first round next year.
Some things have to go right with some of
Or
those
a
high
setter.
upside players in Indy. Tyus Howard, Walker Little in his third year now could be. Cam Robinson's not even available, to be honest with you. And you got a first rounder in Anton Harrison. We're plugging in a first rounder. Do we plug in first rounder Anton Harrison too?
I don't hate it. I mean, I think they really like Little, but boy, I need to see more before I plug him in as my starting right tackle. And he's got to block Von Miller and TJ Watt next week. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I think Titus Howard. Okay, do you like Skoronski right guard, Titus Howard right tackle, or do you like Skoronski right tackle and pick your guard?
My guard would probably be Schreff over Mason, but he's a little declining too. And I don't love Skoronski on the edge with those short little, T-Rex arms. So I guess I'm going to put Howard at right tackle, but it's messy. It's not great.
All right, Titus Howard. He is our right tackle for the AFC South.
Okay. Not ideal. And Kelly's not even ideal at center. I mean, he's okay.
I mean, again, if we'd have done this within the last couple of years, it would have been a lot easier with Kelly there. But yeah, that Colts team just fell apart last year. Even the things you expected to be good weren't good. And we'll see how that changes with new leadership.
I'm going to give that offense a little bit of a pass. I mean, Matt Ryan couldn't have been worse. And then you go to Jeff Saturday in the middle of the year, there were some extenuating circumstances.
There's a lot of extenuation happening.
Right.
That'll be the name of their season outlook, their season DVD, right? The 2022 Indianapolis Colts, extenuating.
That's the name of the album. The CD is.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we got to go to these receivers, which isn't great either.
I don't even know where to begin with the receivers. And this is where the conversation about maybe having a second running back
I hear you.
Which is not something, if you listen to this podcast, that I would normally be fighting for. But let's see. Okay, so starting with the Houston Texans, we've got Robert Woods, John Mechie coming back from just a lost rookie season. Great story for him to be returning now. Then you got Nico Collins. Those are the top three wide receivers that drafted Tank Dell in the third round. You've got Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman as the 1 and 2 big outside wide receivers for the Colts. Isaiah McKenzie they brought in. They drafted a third rounder in Josh Downs. You have Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, and Christian Kirk as the top 3 wide receivers for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We still don't know what Calvin Ridley could be, but he's played the best amongst all these guys at some point in his career. It's just been a little while. And then Treylon Burks, first rounder last year. Kyle Phillips, the 5th rounder last year for the Tennessee Titans. And maybe with visiting DeAndre Hopkins in town. And now that visit's happening Monday as we are recording this podcast. DeAndre Hopkins, if he signs, is he instantly in on the All-AFC South team, Matt?
Maybe. So when it'd be nice even to go 2 tight ends. I mean, I can't even lobby for Chig or somebody like that. I mean, we're really straining for that 11th guy. So my vote, I'm a huge Michael Pittman fan, and kind of along the Colts line of thinking, I think he's, his stats don't reflect the tape or the player, and his situation's been pretty brutal, especially last year. So I would go with Pittman and Ridley, who I understand is a wild card, but all reports are great, as you would expect, but he could have a Deshaun Watson rust factor in a big way. And I think Christian Kirk's the third. I mean, he's a fine third receiver, but not on an all-decade or a super team.
Right. So it's funny because I had the same 2 names written down, Michael Pittman and Calvin Ridley. But I was prepared to put Christian Kirk in there over Ridley. And look, I don't love Michael Pittman. I think you like Pittman more than I do.
Probably.
I just think in this division, he's the guy. And I don't think any of these guys would have made it in any other division we've done so far. So that's when we talked about this maybe being a weaker division here. This is where we're seeing it with the skill position guys.
Yeah, the line was great.
So, okay. I'm going to put in Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley. If DeAndre Hopkins signs, I'm putting him in there.
Instead of Kirk.
Right. So we'll maybe change that at some point at the end of this exercise. If he does sign, are we going to put him in there as wide receiver 3, or are we going to put Derrick Henry and go 2 running back? And I have penciled in a second running back over any of those wide receivers and getting Derrick Henry on this squad. So just going Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry in the backfield with Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley at wide receiver.
I mean, maybe we have to amend this if Hopkins signs, but he can't be in the equation as we speak, here noon on Monday. So it's really Henry versus Kirk, right?
Yep.
And
that's the conversation.
9 out of 10 times we would take a quality slot number 2 receiver over a running back that doesn't catch passes. But Henry's just a lot better.
Yep. Henry's the guy. He deserves to make the squad. So
okay.
I've got Derrick Henry if you're cool with that.
Yeah, I am. I didn't see that path, but I think it's the best way to do this and further weakens this team, honestly. It's the right move, but we're not that hard to play against.
So the offense for the AFC South, Trevor Lawrence, Jonathan Taylor, and Derrick Henry in the backfield. We've got Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley on the outside, Evan Ingram at tight end, and then offensive line left to right is Laramie Tunsil, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Peter Skoronski, Titus Howard.
So, hey, a lot of handing it to Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry over that left side, right behind Nelson and Tunsil all day long.
Yep. Run left. That is the number one play in the playbook. Okay, we've got some decisions to make on the defensive side of the ball, building out the All-AFC South team next. Thanks again, everyone, for making the Peacock and Williamson your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you are subscribed up every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers who already are subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Defensive end, let's go to the pass rushers. How are we getting after the quarterback here? And some very interesting decisions to make. Some highly drafted players, some players that have not quite hit their peak in the NFL. And I'm going to start with Josh Allen of the Jaguars and nominate him as a potential player here as part of this squad. We've got Will Anderson, who is a rookie. He was a top 3 draft pick in the NFL draft. You expect those guys to be superstars. And I do like Will Anderson quite a lot. You have Chase Winovich and Jonathan Greenard and Jerry Hughes and a bunch of bodies there at defensive end for the Houston Texans. You've got Kwity Paye. You've got newly signed Samson Ebukam with the Indianapolis Colts. You have, as I mentioned, Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You have Trayvon Walker, who they just drafted number 1 overall, who's still not as good of a player as Josh Allen, but you could project him to be part of your squad here. You can move him inside if we want here, Matt, because there's no rules. We make up our rules as we go along. Player who's been really good for a long time, but been banged up is Harold Landry of the Titans. Arden Key recently signed by the Tennessee Titans as well. And I believe that is am I missing anybody that should be considered here off the edge for the AFC South?
Probably not. I was going to throw the name Autry out there because he's a good player. He's as much end as tackle. But, I mean, on a super team, I hope you can do better than Autry, obviously. And I think we can. I guess Allen's the first one. But you wish your number 1 edge was a little more Myles Garrett Bosa-esque than, Landry or than Allen.
Well, the most likely guy to become that is probably Will Anderson. So do we just plug in the rookie and say, well, we project him to be as good as Allen probably as a rookie, and maybe he's a lot better?
Yes, but I want to take that conversation one little step further because my edges are Allen and Anderson. But Trayvon Walker was picked 1st overall, and Anderson went 3rd overall, and we've seen at least 1 year of him. I still prefer Anderson, maybe because Walker was underwhelming so, but I'm not ready to dig a grave for Walker yet either.
Would you rather take the upside of Walker over Josh Allen?
Thought about it, but I think I'm going to take the bird in the hand there. I mean, I don't know that I can go 2 unknowns, a rookie and a second-year guy that doesn't have much to lean on. You know what I mean?
Here's the other question, and I have a feeling Will Anderson is the answer. If Will Anderson was in the 2022 draft, would he have gone number 1 or would it have been Trayvon Walker?
I think he goes ahead of Walker, don't you?
Now, that was coming off his best college season too.
Right.
So much hype. Everyone's like, "Oh, but wait till next year's guy, Will Anderson," and they were saying that during the 2022 draft.
Yeah. No, so I do prefer Anderson to Walker, but that's a little risky.
All right, Will Anderson and Josh Allen. We got some speed coming off the edge here in the AFC South, if nothing else. And defensive tackle.
This is easy for me.
Who is it?
Simmons and DeForest Buckner. Okay. I think that's one of the strengths of this team. There aren't a lot of other options that I'm excited about. I'm very happy with those 2. Buckner and Simmons to me are a really strong pair, but I don't see much else to even pick from.
I'm looking at the list here. Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins, Fatukasi. There's Devon Hamilton, Autry that you mentioned. Otabore was drafted recently into the division. There's not even a conversation to be had.
No, right. I mean, none of those beating out DeForest Buckner.
It's clearly Jeffrey Simmons and DeForest Buckner, and then I think we can move on. And, maybe Trevon Walker, if we had an extra spot, would be our, extra rusher from the inside or something like that.
You'd like that, but yeah.
But no, not happening.
I hear you.
All right, Matt, who are you nominating at off-ball linebacker for all AFC South squad?
This is going to be a conversation, but Shaq Darius Leonard is easily number one. He was out of sight, out of mind last year. I still think he's an elite player. He was very much missed. I think plugging him in. He's our every down linebacker. He's got the green dot. He's our dude. Now, the second off the ball guy, I think, comes down to your boy Al Shahir, who people might not even know. I think was a really nice signing by the Titans. But I probably prefer one of the Jags, either Devin Lloyd or Loelikon. I hope I'm not killing his name too much there. But Lloyd really fizzled down the end. I mean, he kind of hit that rookie wall. So I think Loelikon is probably the safest, and he's productive. And do you have a strong preference on any of those?
I'm glad you mentioned my guy. I didn't think he was going to get a mention on this podcast today. And
I like him.
He was an undrafted free agent, but man, Al-Shaair was just a beast for the 49ers. And I think he's going to be a solid starter from day one. You're like, hey, who's this guy who's just making all the tackles and kind of can do a little bit of everything for the Tennessee Titans defense. So I love that signing on the cheap.
Yeah.
And linebackers aren't quite the running backs of the defense, but they're, you can find guys late in drafts and you can not spend a lot of money. I would probably, as part of my commandments as a new GM in the NFL, I would, much like running backs, I'd say, let's chill out on linebackers, off-ball backers, draft a bunch of them late and develop some really good players and not spend at the top of the market, either in the draft in the first round or big time money in free agency.
Put your money in front of them on the D line and let these guys life be a little easier. So we have
Olakun, we have Devin Lloyd, Denzel Perryman, and your vote was for was it for Olakun?
Yeah, but not by leaps and bounds. I think Lloyd could have a very good year, very good career, but I think he's a little safer than Lloyd.
Okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna bypass the first rounder for the Jaguars in 2022. So many early picks for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You need some of those guys to pan out. It could be a scary team if they do.
Absolutely. I mean, that's their whole defense is that way, basically.
That brings us to cornerback.
Okay. I don't love this either.
Pulling up my list. I'm getting behind here, typing in.
No. Take your time. I mean, there are some names.
Have, Tyson Campbell, really nice season last year.
Great year. Yeah.
Very high second round pick in 2021. He's got all the height, weight, speed you're looking for at cornerback. Breakout year. I don't know if a lot of people, he's not a household name, but remember the name Tyson Campbell. I think he's got a strong shot of making this squad. You have Sean Murphy-Bunting, recently brought into the division to the Tennessee Titans with Christian Fulton at corner there. Caleb Farley has had that injury-riddled career dating back to his college days as a former first-round pick. Darius Williams for the Jaguars. You have Isaiah Rodgers, who might be in a little hot water right now. Is Isaiah Rodgers the one that might be in trouble for gambling?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. I need to dig into it a little bit more, but yeah, he's in trouble. And they like him a lot. He's had a good year. He's not a household name. He's a good player.
And the Colts drafted a couple, very tall and athletic corners in Juju Brents and Darius Rush in the second and fifth round, respectively. You have Shaq Griffin, Derek Stingley Jr., and Steven Nelson with the Houston Texans. I think, Matt, I'm going to go with the pedigree of Derek Stingley. He had a nice up and down rookie year, but, showed some flashes, and we'll see if he ever becomes the guy we saw early in his college career, but clearly still talented and highly drafted, and Tyson Campbell.
Me too. And again, that's not great. I mean, because there's tons of talent there. Could be great. Campbell was phenomenal last year. But I think they're clearly the two outside guys. And the one name you didn't mention is the Colts slot corner, Kenny Moore. I mean, he's a quality player. I can live with him as our nickel, but we can figure that out here in a minute.
Okay, I like that. Moving on to safety then. And we'll say if we go three safeties, maybe bring another linebacker into the mix here, or if we go with three corners and a true slot cornerback here in the AFC South. A lot of young talented players in the secondary
Yeah.
here, starting with Jalen Petrie, who I like a lot. Jimmy Ward was signed in free agency by DeMeco Ryans, his old free safety in San Francisco, and that's a solid pairing for the Houston Texans there with Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie. I like Petrie at strong safety near the line of scrimmage. Jimmy Ward's got that range in the back end, but they can both kind of interchange, so I like that a lot. Julian Blackmon in Indianapolis, along with Rodney Thomas. They've got Nick Cross, who is a super athletic player that I'm excited to see in year 2 as well. They drafted in the 3rd round the year before, and they drafted another safety who's very athletic out of Cal in round 5 this year. So, some depth and some pretty good starters there. Andre Sisco, Rayshawn Jenkins, Antonio Johnson signed or drafted in the 5th round this year for the Jacksonville Jaguars at safety. And then Kevin Byard, Amani Hooker are the starting pair for the Tennessee Titans. And to me, Kevin Byard has to be in this.
Yeah. Still.
And then we have to fight about the second guy.
Exactly. So I think Blackman's a much better player than people probably know. I think Sisco is a legit breakout player with some impressive traits and splash ability. I know you love Petrie. I like Petrie a lot too. I think Petrie and Byard are probably my vote for the 2 safeties.
I would argue that Jalen Petrie could also be your nickel if you like one of these other safeties over one of the other corners.
Right. Kenny Moore is a little more established, and Petrie can do a lot of other things, and it also, maybe it's worth revisiting only taking 4 defensive backs and throwing Trayvon Walker as our 11th guy. I mean, that's not against the rules, right?
No, it's not.
I mean, we took Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor in this division.
If we were defending the offense of the South, that would be the way to go with our dual running back look.
Bulk up,
but defending the other divisions would be tough if we didn't have a defensive back. I like Petrie at nickel. So it's between Ward, Blackmon, Sisco. Are those the top 3 safeties left?
Yeah. So you like those guys better than Kenny Moore, which I'm fine with because Petrie can do the Moore thing.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. The question is which one? Are we going Blackmon, Jimmy Ward?
They're all about the same to me. I was about to say it would be nice to have that veteran presence, but we have Byard for that. I was, leaning towards Ward.
Mm-hmm.
His age scares me a little, I think Blackman's solid, but he does not scream super team starter.
Right. So maybe we should go Petrie and Kenny Moore.
I think so. We'll figure out ways to use them both.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the way I'm leaning.
There it is. That's our secondary. It's Tyson Campbell, Derek Steenley on the outside. We got Byard and Petrie, and then we got Kenny Moore with the slot.
Good enough for the cards we were dealt. Not ideal.
The question is now, we've only done 3 divisions. Our 3rd division, I think it's clearly the worst of our 3 divisions so far.
Yeah.
Could this be, I think, team-wise, you're looking at the South the last couple of years, and I think it's probably the worst division in football. And I think the all-division team is kind of showing that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, not that everyone's rooting for their division, but I mean, in this exercise, you would hope if we do this a year from now, we should do this every year. It's a fun little thing, that this is noticeably better. You would hope that Skoronski's a plug-and-play Pro Bowl guard and Will Anderson's a top 10 pass rusher and, things like that. Some of those Jags defenders take a step forward. You would hope it's a lot better a year from now than it is now, but it's pretty rough. I mean,
a lack of household names, and then some of the positions you're lucky that you got one guy like quarterback. It's like if you didn't have Trevor Lawrence,
right?
This is going to be tough.
It's going to be real tough.
Compete for this division.
I mean, Ridley's probably going to be the guy leading the team in targets. That's not Jamar Chase. That's not Stephon Diggs.
If DeAndre Hopkins signs, I would probably just plug Hopkins in even over Ridley. Because I've seen more recently.
I know, but I have doubts. I have doubts what Hopkins has left too, to be honest.
At least we've seen him play. We saw him play well last year.
Yeah.
He was on a 1,000-yard pace last year, even though he played only half the season.
If they sign Hopkins, I might cut Derrick Henry for him.
Oh, really?
And keep Pittman and Ridley. I'm really hating having 2 running backs that don't catch the football.
That's bothering me.
It is bothering me, but they are 2 of our best 22 players without question.
Okay, how would you play this? Let us know.
It's on easy
YouTube comments or on Twitter at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Get your mailbag questions this weekend as well. And Matt and I will be back tomorrow with the AFC West super team right here, Peacock and Williamson.